everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Hailey Harmon, and I'm an event planning intern with Texas State's Mass Comm Week. And today I will be your moderator for the session. Today's session. Today's session is such a treat. Today we have Alyssa Nodorft, a former advertising student and Texas State alum. Alyssa is breaking ground in the in the Texas advertising world and has already accomplished so much for graduating less than 2 years ago. I know that we all aspire to be like her, so during this session, I ask that you pay attention, and if a question comes up, direct it towards me in a private chat, or if you prefer to save your question for the end for a short Q&A. With that being said, it's always a pleasure to meet a fellow Bobcat and hear their experiences out in the real world. Alyssa, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Yay, thank you all for having me. I'm ready.
Okay. So, to start off, I'm going to ask you, when did you know that you were going to go down the creative path?
Oh, okay, yeah. So I feel like I knew like a little bit earlier than average. Like by the time I was a senior in high school, I knew that I wanted to major in advertising. And I started realizing that I could become a creative when I took a graphic design class in high school. So I took a couple of those, and then by the time I was ready to graduate, I was like, okay, I know that this is what I want to do.
Awesome. Did you do anything in college that helped you prepare to land a job in your current career?
Yes. So I tried to like stack my resume up as much as I could before I was applying to jobs, because I knew that's what would like make me like stick out from everyone else. So I tried to do a lot. I had an internship after my sophomore year. So between my sophomore and junior year that summer, I was a marketing intern for an in-house like real estate company. Just did like some design and marketing stuff for them. And then I was the vice president of marketing for my sorority for about a year and a half. Got a lot of experience with that, especially like leadership experience and social media experience. I also worked at the LBJ Student Center as a graphic designer from my sophomore year up until I graduated. So that was, that was like 10 hours a week, just like constant like design experience, which was really nice. And then I also did the National Student Advertising Competition in the spring semester of my final semester of college. And then that same semester, I also interned at GSD&M. So I tried to do a lot and the last year was very busy, but it definitely was worth it because it all helps me get the job that I have now.
Yeah, awesome. It sounds like you did a lot in college.
It was a lot. Like, and I knew that I was gonna have to be applying to jobs and get a job straight out of college because my parents were retiring. So they're like, we can't help you if you don't get a job. So I had to get a job. And so I, basically busted my butt throughout college, having that like end goal in mind. But thankfully it paid off. I got a job in July, so a couple months after I graduated.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. What's the first major campaign that you would say that you worked on?
Oh, I mean, probably I would say like Wienerschnitzel for the INSAC team. That would probably be the first like official big client, that was really like from start to finish, like something very official, not just like picking a random client for like a class project or something. I can't remember all of those. But the first big client campaign I worked on was probably Wienerschnitzel. So for NSAC, my senior year.
Yeah. Did you know anything about Wienerschnitzel before you worked on it, or you just like dove head deep in?
All I knew is that no one I knew liked it, and it was our job to make people like it. So I didn't know much, but I was in the like account planning 2 class in the semester prior to, so in the fall semester of my senior year with Jenny Bushhorn. And so in that I got to learn a lot about Wienerschnitzel and just hot dogs overall, which was really fun getting to be on the other side of things, doing like the strategy and insights and research and all of that. So I also liked doing that too, but it was more fun to get to create stuff for it. So
yeah. That was pre-COVID time. So I want to ask a question. Did you guys all go there and eat there? Because the restaurant is in San Marcos.
We did. The creative team all went. I think we went like at least twice, and for some brainstorm sessions, just to get a feel of what we were working with. It was pretty dead. I don't think there was anyone there. But yeah, the food wasn't that bad. It was pretty okay.
That's so funny. Thank you for sharing that with us. I was just curious. What's your favorite part about being a creative in advertising?
My favorite part is just getting to do things that I enjoy every day, even if it's something that, it's like, oh, like for example, like I have to redesign a PowerPoint. It's not that fun, but it's still like I still get to put my own spin on it and, just get to think creatively. It's better than, doing like a mundane task, like entering data or like, I don't know, something like that. So I like that it's actually something I get to enjoy. And when we get to do like, really fun projects for work, it's fun because, it's like I can put this in my portfolio, which will help my career in the future. So it's nice to be able to have a job that I truly enjoy doing and that I'm passionate about.
Yeah. So when you get clients or campaigns that you're not really that passionate about, or you don't really know the brand, where do you find your inspiration?
Yeah. So really within like the insights, like whatever the main task is, even if it's for something that I don't know much about, like at my current agency, we have a lot of like tech clients, like supply chain and things like that, which I really don't know much about, but I just kind of hone in on like the main goal, like whether it's like raise awareness or like hit, like an emotional chord or something like that. That's what I try to hone in on. And then, in addition to that, try to do as much research as I can to actually understand the client, because then it's easier to reach that end goal in the end. That makes sense.
Yeah. So you mentioned before that you took like advanced strategy with Jenny, and then you were creative in NSEC. Do you feel like leading up to that, like taking like those advanced courses like strategy and things like that helped you be a better creative, like learning the other sides of advertising?
Yeah, I do think that way because it's important to, I mean, you have to know where your insight is like coming from and, the reasons behind it and all the data behind it. And so I feel like that does help you as a creative just to get a better overall like understanding of whatever project you're working on. And even now I try to still do, kind of like research into, just like Wienerschnitzel, I didn't know a lot about. We did a bunch of research on hot dogs. And even now I still try to do research for like things that I don't fully understand. Because yeah, I think it helps being a creative to, to understand the whole big picture, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Can you tell me about your first job out of college?
Yeah, so I work at a small advertising agency here in town called Mighty and True. I had not heard of it before I applied, even though I had done a million job searches on Google, like ad agencies in Austin and marketing agencies in Austin and stuff. But I eventually found it on ZipRecruiter, and it was for a junior graphic design position, which was what I was looking for. Because one thing I want to add is if you're a designer maybe wanting to be an art director and maybe you don't know like the difference between the two or which one you want to apply for, like I was in that situation. I was like, I don't know which one I'm more fit for, but I had more design like experience and more design work in my portfolio than like single like campaign art direction work. So I applied to design jobs, and then now I'm able to become an art director, like hopefully in January at my next like review or whatever. So I just wanted to throw that out there for anyone who may have the same problem as I did. But yeah, so I work at Mighty and True, and there's about 15 of us. We have an assortment of clients ranging from like NTT, which is like a global data centers company, Blue Yonder, which is a supply chain company, Hunger Rush, which does like it helps with apps like DoorDash and Uber Eats and stuff, like helps them plan out things. SMU, for one of their like master's programs. So kind of an assortment of clients, and I really like it because I get to do kind of a lot of different things. I like being in a small agency at this point in my career because I get more like feedback and one-on-one with my boss, and I do get to wear a bunch of different hats, whereas like another, I get to do art direction even though I'm technically a designer because we have a small creative team. So like I have to step up and do the art direction. Whereas at another agency, maybe there'd be a junior designer and a junior art director, like at a larger agency. So I like being at a small agency right now. And I've worked there for a year and 4 months now. And yeah, it's been going swimmingly. So yeah.
That's good. Earlier, you mentioned that you had an internship at GSD&M. How do you compare the two?
Yeah. So like when I was interning at GSD&M, I was a design intern. So they're kind of similar roles, like definitely feed into each other, like design intern to junior designer, but they were still very like different. At GSD&M, obviously it's a bigger place, but we still had kind of a small department. So I still got like a decent amount of, like shadowing, I guess you could say. Also, it was cooler too because like when there were like big agency wide meetings, you could go and see like 300 or 400 people. So that was cool. Although since I was an intern, I didn't have, as many connections with those people, obviously. But overall, I like being at a small agency more because just of the reasons I mentioned prior. Although being at GSD&M, I really enjoyed getting the experience to know that like, okay, this is like the biggest agency in town, like with like awesome clients. So like what all can I do? And like, does it live up to the hype and stuff like that? Cause when you're like a young, hungry college student, all you want is to work at one of, the big name agencies and stuff like that. So I was really grateful and like content with the fact that I got that opportunity because since I got a job at a smaller agency, if I hadn't had that, then maybe I would have been like, oh, I want to, I still want to work at a big one. Like I want to, work at a big name and stuff. But since I had that experience as like an intern, I feel like now I'm more content with my role now, being like, okay, well, I tried that and now I'm on the smaller side of things. And then maybe one day I'll hit like a happy medium at like a medium-sized agency, So yeah.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit more about your day-to-day at Mighty and True and what you think helped land your career there?
Yeah. So what helped me land my job there was everything on my resume, including the fact that I was creative director of the INSAC team, and my current boss, my current creative director, was also creative director of the Texas State INSAC team back in like 2002 or something. And he also worked at the LBJ Student Center as a designer, which is also what I had done. So we had like two positions in common there. So that was, a big thing that helped me get my job. And then my day-to-day life is we have daily meetings at 10 a.m. now, ever since COVID started. And then from there, it really depends. Like some days I will have, if I work straight through, I'll have like 5 or 6 hours of work. Other days, I'll have to work over. Like today I had to work until like 6, but it's because we have like a big pitch on Monday. But that doesn't happen that often. So it's really I kind of just take it week by week. Because some weeks will be, sort of dead, have some more, like downtime where maybe I can concentrate on like amping up the agency's social media or something like that. Whereas other days, it's just like solely back-to-back client work. But some of the things I've been doing lately is like a logo redesign, a lot of like banner display ads, a couple like video storyboards, what else? A few like creative conceptual campaigns where we get to brainstorm, like some out of home stuff or like direct mail stuff. So there's kind of a big array of things that I get to do on a daily basis. And at this point, I've been there long enough to where I'm like pretty confident in every client, but every few months we'll still, get a new client or like a one-off project for another client. And so I kind of have to like, get myself well versed in that. But yeah, sorry, it's kind of hard to describe a day to day because like every day is so different.
Yeah.
But along with that, like just like communicating back and forth with my boss, like via Slack every day, something that I do. And then by the end of the day, try to turn in everything I have to do that day. Sometimes I try to turn in stuff like early, like if I have a lot to do on like due by Wednesday and not a lot to do on Monday, then I'll try to, like get myself up to speed or like get ahead of the game a little bit. But that there's not always that chance. So yeah, it kind of just varies every day.
Awesome. What is a piece of work that you're most proud of?
I'm gonna have to go to my website and look. My first like thought would be like the Popeyes packaging. Although I am also like very proud of things that I make like 100% myself. So there's a couple things on my website that's like, oh yeah, like recreations of like the Daily Prophet newsletter from Harry Potter. And it has like actual content in it related to like what was happening in the LBJ Student Center at the time. And it was just like very detailed, a lot of like typography and stuff, but I'm really proud of it. It's still like my second piece on my website. So probably that. And then yeah, I enjoyed the Popeyes packaging too, because that was probably like the coolest thing I got to take part in at GSC&M. And it was still like a team effort. Like I never want to take all the credit for it, obviously, but it was a really cool piece to put in my portfolio and to see it come like into fruition, because it didn't get printed until after I left, like months later. So it was cool to witness that come to life.
Yeah, I was about to ask, do you have any creative work that we might have seen? And you answered that with the Popeyes packaging, but do you have any other creative work that we might have seen?
Yeah, so if you've seen the Alkek filter or the LBJ filter on campus, I made those. Trying to think what else.
On Snapchat?
Yeah, on Snapchat, yeah. So those are probably the things that are still there, like still on campus. I would say like probably like a bunch of posters up in the hall, but obviously I graduated, so I'm not there making posters anymore. But yeah, those would probably be it.
Awesome. What do you wish that you had known before taking your first job as a creative?
I wish, let me think for a second. I wish that I knew that, it's still going to be, there's still going to be a learning curve. Like when you are a senior and, like I was like creative director in SAC and like interning at GSC&M and like student manager at my job, it's very easy to feel, like I figured it all out and stuff. But like once you start a new job, like you will mess up and there will be things that you do not know, and it will kind of be, like not like an ego bust, but just, it brings you back down to earth a little bit. So I wish I could tell myself like, hey, it's okay, you don't know everything yet, you're only 22, and there's still so much to learn, and if you're not still learning, then you're doing something wrong. So that's what I tell myself.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. If you could go back in time, so imagine a time machine was built, what else would you have done in college leading up to being a creative? I know that you did a lot in college, but would you have done anything different or added anything to your already hectic plate?
Oh yeah, I would have done more in ad club, like traveled with them and stuff and gone to more meetings and stuff. Cause yeah, I didn't for some reason. I think because whenever they had meetings, I had something else that same day. So I was just like, oh, I can never go. So whatever. But I wish I had done more of that, especially like being able to travel to like New York and wherever they went and see all those agencies. Like that would have been really cool. So yeah, that's one thing I wish I would have done. I don't really have any like regrets per se. So yeah, that's just one thing I wish I would have done. I don't know if I realistically could have been able to do it because, you know, I had a lot of other commitments, but if there were two of me, then I would have had one of them be in ad club. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that. As the current ad club president, it's nice to hear.
Yes, go to
Subtle
ad club.
plug, but it's nice to hear that you would go to our meetings if you could have. I want to thank you so much for your time today, and I want to end this session so we can move into a short Q&A. But if you could you share one piece of advice that you heard leading up to landing your career?
Oh, okay. Just, I mean, if there's one thing I can advise, it's find find the part of you that will like give you the ambition to find the job, because finding a job was like very like stressful and it's a very like trying time. But and I wish I could have told myself it'll all be okay, because when I was searching for jobs and, you know, my lease was going to be up and it felt like, you know, a ticking time bomb and stuff like that, I wish I could have told myself, like, you did everything that you could have possibly done, aka you like busted your butt throughout college, and you have, you know, you spent time on your website and your portfolio, so you are, you know, sending it all out there, like it's in other people's hands now, and just one of them has to come back and give me a job. And eventually it happened. So I wish I could have told myself, you know, like, hey, it's okay, it will happen, don't stress about it, because there's plenty of other reasons to be stressed. So yeah,
Your website is beautiful. Like,
oh, thank you. Thank you.
So I'm going to go ahead and open up the Q&A. If anyone has a question, please feel free to ask.
Hailey, do you want us to do it in the chat or?
Yeah, so Nicole just sent me one. What's a personal project you are working on?
Oh yeah, okay. So I kind of have two. So I do a side gig thing called like, it's like a resume revamping service where like someone can send me their resume if they made it on like Word or something, and it needs to, you know, have a little facelift, and I will go in one of my, like, I have 10 different templates that you can pick from, and I'll go and enter all your information and send it back to you for only $45, pretty cheap. I'm gonna plug it in right here real quick. And then alongside that, I also, like, just to be like creative in my own time for fun and not for money or anything, I try to like visualize like song lyrics. Like I pick my favorite lyric out of a song I've been listening to recently and like design it into, you know, the feelings and vibes I get from the song, I guess. So that's a nice like creative outlet too. Although I haven't been doing as much of that because work has been so busy, so it's hard to keep up with personal projects, but it's something that I try to do because it's really nice when you get to be creative solely for yourself and not for anyone else. You know, it kind of helps your, you know, refresh your creative process, I guess. So yeah.
So we have another question. It says, when you were looking for jobs, did you lean more into an ad agency or an in-house, and why which one in particular?
Yeah, so I wanted to work in an agency, at least in like the beginning of my career. I liked being at GSC&M and like the whole agency like setting and stuff. I was still applying to in-house jobs though, because, you know, a job is a job and I just wanted one. And, you know, you can still have really good experience at an in-house place. I had an internship at an in-house place and I really liked it. But it was probably, I was leaning more towards agencies. But if I saw an in-house job, I didn't pass it up. You know, I applied to every possible job that I thought I was qualified for.
So you mentioned prepping for a client pitch. What's that like?
Oh yeah. Okay. So I try to like jot down as many notes as I can, like the thoughts that I was thinking throughout my design process, and, you know, the feelings I have towards that client. So like this is an example, like we had to do a pitch for one of our clients is Ulta. So we were doing a pitch to this client for their campaign for Ulta. And so I, you know, my creative director was like, hey, since you want to be an art director and stuff, you should like lead this, not the pitch, but the parts with the art direction and stuff. And so I just like went through, like wrote down like the feelings that, I got, that helps me create the designs in the first place. And then I wrote down, like some of them have photography styles, some of them like evoke more emotion, or some of them have more like attitude than the other ones. And so I kind of just write all that down. And as I'm presenting, I have like that, like the Zoom on one side of the screen, my notes on the other side of the screen. So it's kind of easier in today's age, because in person, it's definitely a little nerve-wracking. And I don't have that much good advice for that, except to like practice and practice and practice. So yeah.
Yeah. So we have a question, very controversial, but Illustrator versus Photoshop.
Oh, Illustrator, hands down. Yeah, I love Photoshop. Well, no, I love Illustrator. Photoshop can be a pain in the butt. They both have very different, uses. And more of what I do is more aligned in Illustrator. I think it also has like slightly friendlier user interface and stuff. But I use both of them pretty like interchangeably, honestly. So I've had to get pretty used to both of them, but I like Illustrator more.
Thank you for that, because that's something I've always wondered too. Where would you like to see yourself in 10 years within the industry?
Oh, 10 years? Okay, I'll be 33. I would like to be living, well, I've always wanted to live in New York City and be a creative director of like a big agency. I don't know when that will happen in my career, if it'll happen at the 10-year mark or 15 or 20, whatever. But ideally, by that time, by the time I'm 33, I've like lived in a few cities, worked at a few different agencies, gotten a good deal of experience. And if I'm not feeling the agency life anymore, then ideally I'd want to be like, I guess like a freelance art director or creative director, like on my own, maybe like sell my own art, make a profit off of that. Maybe like start my own little shop, something like that. So I don't know, the possibilities are endless.
Based off of everything you did in college and the hustle that you had, if any 33-year-old was going to take New York and be a freelance, it would be you. So
thank you. I always say, like, because I'll tell people that and they like scoff at me. I'm like, you don't know how. I'm like, I can do it. I'm like, I can make it to New York. Like, just watch me, like it just gives me more motivation. So yeah.
We are what we manifest.
There's a lot of cities I'd like to live in. Do what?
I said we are what we manifest.
Yes, so true. So true.
So deadlines, real world versus school. Which one was crazier for you?
Ooh, honestly, real world, because it's like now my job depends on it. Like back in college, I mean, worst thing is I'd get a lower grade. The worst thing now is that like a client is unhappy and we lose the account or something, so probably scarier in the real world.
Yeah.
But just be on top of your stuff and you won't have to worry about that.
So deadlines, real world versus school. Which one's crazy?
Wait, what?
Deadlines versus real world and school. Wait, nope, that was the last question.
Okay, yeah, I was like, wait.
Apparently I forgot how to read. Do you have any website tips and how to display side hustles and things like that?
Oh yeah. So I really like when a website has like a little side hustle page. If all of your side hustles or side projects are on that one page, I always really like that. I have one on my page. I think it's called Encore, because my website is set up like Act 1 is designs and Act 2 is like campaigns, and then Encore is like side projects. So going back to like general advice about websites, like have some sort of like personalization or theme like that, even if it's like very, low key, like mine is, like the theater theme or whatever, because I like theater. So just some sort of like personalization in it. And then start on it early, because I I didn't really get a chance to start on mine until after NSAC. So like mid-April, early May, which is also super stressful because you have finals and you're applying to graduate and all of that. So, and the more time you have to apply to jobs, the better. Like the earlier start you get on it, the better. But you can't do that until your portfolio is done, you know, and you feel comfortable showing it to potential hiring managers. And along with that, you're going to want feedback on your portfolio. Like you want to ask a few people about it and get, you know, some opinions so that you can make revisions to it and stuff. So just have ample time for that. Like, you know, you don't have to start in like January, although I guess if you have the time, then you could, but just don't start like in May or like late April, like I did, because you'll probably stress yourself out, because it can take a while to kind of get your groove and like figure out everything you want to put on there. And, you know, once again, to get that feedback, you could ask a professor for feedback, but it could take, you know, like 2 weeks before they get back to you. So just get an early start on that. So that's my main portfolio advice.
So you mentioned earlier that you help revamp resumes. Do you have any resume tips to share with us today?
Oh yeah, so just like your portfolio, like make it a little bit personalized just so they can see your, you know, your personality. I mean, you are a creative. Don't go like overboard though, you know, to where you can't like really, to where there's too much on there. You still want it to be simple, because just like your website, people are gonna look at it and they probably have a short attention span, and they're going to be looking for like the best things or the most important information and stuff like that. So you want to get straight to the point. Just like in any campaign, you want to get straight to the point. So keep it like, you know, don't write a whole, you know, novel for every description. But think about like the main points you've accomplished at each job, not just a vague description, but like if you like increased sales 50% or whatever, if you have like concrete numbers that you can put in there, that's good. Or like you know, directed 10 campaigns throughout 3 months or something like that, instead of just like helps creative direct the campaigns. It's like, no shit, like that's your title, but what else did you do that like that will make you stand out in that role compared to other people who have a very similar role on their resume? So yeah.
So when it comes to portfolio school, do you wish that you went to one, or are you happy that you got a job straight out of college?
Oh yeah, I'm happy I got a job straight out of college. I mean, it'd be awesome to go to a portfolio school, but I can't imagine like paying more money to go to school when I could get the same amount of experience through jobs, I think, and get paid for it rather than paying for it. So yeah.
Interviewing, it's pretty scary. It's
Yes.
scary to me. Do you have any tips when it comes to interviewing?
Yeah, like, you know, I am like really good at freezing mid-interview. So like I said earlier, when it comes to presenting, like practice in the mirror, and, you know, maybe like practice your elevator pitch is something like professors always told me. Also just know that like you made it there in that interview for a reason. Like everything you've done now led you up until there. So like go in with confidence, and go in not with the mindset that like I already have the job, but like show them why they deserve you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So we have a question, and I think this is our last one. It's, what is a skill that you've learned but you haven't used?
Oh, that's hard. I took a visual storytelling class where I learned what was the Adobe video program? Not After Effects. Oh, Premiere. And I have not used that since then. So yeah, maybe that.
Well, thank you.
I've used most of the things I've learned though, because my job is like, you know, like I said earlier, I wear a lot of hats, and used a lot of programs. I've learned some new programs since then. So yeah, I guess it's just the skills I learned from, you know, those kind of elective classes that I don't use a whole lot.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think that will wrap up today's session unless anyone else has any other questions. I want to thank you guys so much for coming, and I want to thank you, Alyssa, for taking time out of your busy schedule to come speak to us. It is awesome seeing a bobcat out there in the real world just hustling and like paving the way for all of us, because when one bobcat wins, we all win. So
yes, so true, so true. And there is definitely a whole network of bobcats out there, and in Austin especially, that want us all to succeed. So y'all got this.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank y'all for having me. This was fun.